It all started with a scream from my nephew that made my heart drop faster than the stock market on crash day. I was in the kitchen, casually slicing apples, when I heard a high-pitched "Dad" from the living room that nearly made me chop my finger off. The scream didn't come from my kid because I don't have one. It came from Mikey, my sister's 3-year-old son, whom I was babysitting for a month while she and my brother-in-law vacationed in Europe. They left me with the kid and $1 million wired to my account like I was some kind of luxury nanny. "Nothing can go wrong," they said. Ha! Famous last words. I rushed over, panicked, but Mikey looked totally fine, just a bit startled. I breathed a sigh of relief until I saw the phone in his hand, the screen still lit up. The call was active. The contact name? Scumbag. My stomach flipped. That was the name Emily Carter that Emily Carter used to save my number. She had called me. After 829 days and 1 hour of absolute radio silence, she called me. I put it on speaker, and before I could say anything, her voice sliced through the silence, cold and sharp. "It's only been 829 days and 1 hour since we broke up. And your kid is already calling you Dad?" I froze. My brain short-circuited. Before I could explain that Mikey wasn't mine, she hung up. Just like that. The beep of the disconnected line echoed louder than it had any right to. I stood there like an idiot, holding a half-sliced apple, wondering what the hell just happened. I hadn't spoken to Emily since we broke up over 2 years ago. She had become the youngest A-list actress in Hollywood, winner of the Golden Frame, and a goddess worshipped by millions. And I was still me. Freelance actor, background roles, doing okay, nothing big. I tried to shake it off, comforted Mikey, and thought that was the end of it. But then my phone buzzed. A push notification. Emily Carter breaks down live on national TV. I tapped it, thinking it was fake news. It wasn't. It was her. The live broadcast was everywhere. Emily was on Heart Signal, Second Chance, a massively popular dating variety show. Apparently, she lost a challenge and had to call her ex as punishment. She scrolled to my name pinned to the top, no less, and dialed. What she got instead was my nephew yelling, "Dad." The camera caught every flicker of emotion on her face: shock, pain, disbelief. The internet lost its damn mind. Comments exploded. Did Emily Carter's ex already have a secret kid? Is the movie queen actually the one who got dumped? Who the hell is the guy she called? I watched the chaos unfold from my couch, frozen. I didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or dig a hole and disappear. The worst part? She hadn't had any public relationships. Ever. Her fans were obsessed. People started guessing which celebrities she had dated. Theories popped up, edits were made, meme pages exploded. And then just as it was reaching fever pitch, Emily went live. Her hair was messy, eyes tired, but her voice was calm. "I've only ever had one relationship. The man I dated is none of the people trending right now. Please stop the speculation." She looked into the camera and gave a tiny smile. "Let's just move on." Except the internet didn't move on. It doubled down. "She's totally not over him. Look at her eyes, still red. Girl's been crying. 829 days and 1 hour. That's heartbreak precision." Some even began blaming her. Maybe she got dumped and can't let go. Why is she so pressed if it's been over 2 years? I thought the storm would blow over. It didn't. The very next day, my agent Nathan barged into my apartment. "Hey, do you know Emily Carter?" he asked, narrowing his eyes at me like I was hiding a dead body. I panicked and shook my head. Nope. Never met her. That was a lie, obviously. Our entire relationship had been under wraps. Nobody knew. We kept it low-key because she was just starting her big break and I didn't want to ride her coattails. Good, he said, because her agency wants to cast you in a dating variety show. I blinked. What? Nathan grinned. It's good PR. You'd be an idiot to say no. And just like that, I was shipped off to the set of Heart Signal, Second Chance, the very same show Emily had been on. When I arrived at the luxury villa in the Hollywood Hills, I was still telling myself it was just coincidence. Then I saw her. Emily Carter. Hair tied back, makeup flawless, eyes cold as ice. She walked past me like I didn't exist. My legs nearly gave out. She was even more gorgeous in person. The production team paired everyone into groups, but Emily and I didn't interact at all. Not a glance, not a word. I ended up paired with Olivia Yu, an influencer and classmate from Eastview University. We had a nice enough chat, but I couldn't stop glancing at Emily. Neither could the internet. The barrage comments were vicious and hilarious. Why does he look like he wants to cry? Is he a fanboy or her ex? Emily's pretending real hard not to know him lol. Later that night, back at the villa, Olivia and I walked in laughing about some dumb college memory. Emily was sitting alone on the couch. She looked up, caught sight of us, and her eyes dimmed. Olivia ran off for a work call, leaving me awkwardly standing there. Emily stood up and said, "James, I need to ask you something." Privately. The cameras had shut down. I followed her to the kitchen, heart pounding. She turned to me, arms crossed. "Is that your kid?" I shook my head. "It's my nephew." Her expression flickered, then steadied. "You're not married? Raising a kid alone?" There was irritation in her voice, but something else to concern. I stammered, "No, I was just watching him for a month." She stared at me, then started laughing. Actually laughing. "I've lost sleep over this for a week," she said, half to herself. "Turns out it's just your nephew." I didn't know whether to laugh or apologize. Then she looked me dead in the eyes and said, "You know I could be his stepmom." I nearly dropped my phone. "What?" She smirked but didn't answer. I scrambled to explain more. She listened, nodded, and chuckled again. That familiar laugh, I hadn't heard it in years. But damn, it hit like a freight train. She was teasing me, sure, but there was a softness there. A crack in the armor. And I knew right then, this wasn't over. Not even close. Not for her. Not for me. Not with the cameras rolling, the internet watching, and a dating show hell-bent on bringing chaos. Which meant only one thing: things were about to get a whole lot messier. The next few days blurred into a chaotic mess of group activities, strategic pairings, subtle glances, and relentless commentary from viewers who seemed more obsessed with our micro-expressions than the actual show format. But what haunted me most wasn't Emily ignoring me on set, it was her saying she could be Mikey's stepmom, then pretending like she never said it. Classic Emily Carter. Say something bold, then act like it never happened unless I brought it up first. I tried playing it cool, went on a casual date with Olivia Yu for a cooking challenge, and pretended I wasn't hyper-aware of where Emily stood in every room we entered. But I could feel it, the air between us was too charged to ignore. She was always near, always in the background, always lingering long enough to let me know she saw everything but never long enough for me to call her out. And let's not forget the barrage. The comments were insane. "James is down bad. Someone give this man an Oscar for pretending to breathe near Emily Carter. Did he just choke on his smoothie when she smiled at the other guy? I mean, fair. I probably did." But then came the face match game segment. The producers gave us all a challenge: identify each other's facial features from a pile of cropped photos, like a twisted puzzle version of Tinder. I didn't get paired with Emily, thank God, but I still had to watch her absolutely dominate the task. She pieced together my face in less than 5 minutes. This is your GQ cover from last year, right? The one with the snowflake pattern jacket, she said casually. I choked on air. I hadn't even remembered that photo shoot, and she picked it like she had studied every pore. I just glanced at it once, she added, brushing it off like her memory wasn't photographic. Meanwhile, when it was my turn to pick out her features, I completely bombed. I chose random pieces based on what I like: sexy lips, soft cheekbones, those intense upturned eyes, but none of them were actually hers. When I revealed my final Frankenstein puzzle, the room went silent. She stared at the photo, eyebrows arched like I had just insulted her entire bloodline. Who is this? She asked slowly. I scratched my head. I just picked what I liked. I honestly couldn't tell which one was you. Well, she said, cool as ever, sorry to disappoint you. I don't look like that. Her tone was sharp, but the corners of her mouth twitched like she was trying not to smile. I shot back, it's fine, I don't need to like you. And the room erupted. Barrage exploded. James just got himself killed live. My man's trying to act cold, but he's dying inside. You like her and you still couldn't recognize her? Bro. I thought she'd be pissed, but she just laughed, shrugged it off, and said, maybe we need to get to know each other more. The camera panned to my face right as I short-circuited. Then came our one-on-one archery date, and that's when I realized I was completely screwed. Emily wore this fitted black zip-up jacket that hugged her like it was designed by NASA for maximum distraction. She picked up a bow, adjusted her stance, pulled back, and nailed the bullseye. 3 times in a row. The way her arms moved, the way her breath came out, she looked like a damn action heroine mid-scene. Then she turned to me, smirking like she knew exactly what she was doing. Was that beautiful? She asked, casually wiping sweat from her brow. I was too flustered to answer. She sat beside me, leaned in a little, and asked again, well, was it? I caught a glimpse of her flushed earlobe and realized she was nervous. Emily Carter, nervous. So I smirked and said nothing. She huffed, pulled out her phone, and shoved it in my face. Look. Even the fans think I looked great. High energy edit. Trending tag. 2 million likes. She was proud of it, but the moment I tried to watch the clip a second time, she yanked the phone away. Why are you watching the video? I'm literally right here in front of you. Barrage lit up again. She's jealous of herself, y'all. Sister Carter is gonna combust. James, blink if you're in danger. The tension only ramped up after that. She asked me if I wanted to try archery. I joked, only if you teach me. She froze for a second, laughed, then said, I would, but let's not get you injured. I'll find a coach. She walked off to find one, and I sat there, stunned that she still remembered I used to dislocate my shoulder trying to play dodgeball. During the rest of the day, she hovered near me like a proud mentor, praising my form and even tossing jokes toward the director. If you're casting for a modern-day Cupid, James might be your guy. I turned redder than the target board. That night back at the villa, Olivia ran over grinning and gossiping. No wonder Emily asked to switch date groups. Girl came prepared. Emily, sitting nearby with a cup of tea, coughed so hard she nearly choked. Olivia laughed awkwardly, then turned to me and said, James, you and I should recite together during the campus episode next week. I agreed, and then Emily quietly added, I want to go too. Olivia blinked, wait, you went to Eastview? Emily sipped her tea and muttered, no. I'm from Westbridge Tech, but I visited a lot. That shut Olivia up. I didn't say anything, but I could feel Olivia staring at the two of us like she'd just cracked some hidden plot twist. The day of the university episode came, and the production crew followed us back to our old campus. Sorry, Olivia got a front row seat, being an alum and an influencer. I quietly ducked away, found a corner seat, just wanting to breathe. But after seeing the back of Emily's head 5 times too many, I slipped out and wandered back to my old dorm building. It was empty. Quiet. I leaned on the railing and stared at the sky, half lost in memory, when I felt eyes on me. I turned. Emily was there, standing like a ghost from my past. Wind in her hair, hoodie pulled up, eyes locked onto mine. Just like the nights when she used to sneak over during finals week, whispering, "I can't sleep unless I'm next to you." My phone buzzed. 2 words. Turn around. I didn't even hesitate, I ran. And when I got close enough, I stopped, breathing hard. "Why'd you leave early?" she asked, voice low. "Not my school," I muttered. "Didn't think I belonged." Her eyes narrowed. "You know damn well why I came." Her tone shifted, serious, pointed. "Don't play dumb." She reached into her pocket and pressed something cold into my palm. I looked down. It was a metal badge, shaped like a trophy, with Emily Carter engraved in the middle. My throat tightened. "I said I'd win one for you," she said. "So this doesn't count as breaking my promise." She looked away, blinking fast. That night, standing on that dorm rooftop, she had promised to win an award just to spite me after our breakup. And she did. She said I embarrassed her in front of investors. She said I was holding her back. She said I was immature for wanting her to turn down roles just so we wouldn't be apart for more than a week. We broke each other in that argument. But now, after all her success, all the headlines and awards, she came back to me, badge in hand, hope in her eyes. "James," she whispered, "can we still be together?" I didn't answer. I ran. Like a coward. Because for all my sarcasm, all my chill, deep down I knew this wasn't a game anymore. Not for her. And definitely not for me. After I ran from that rooftop, badge still warm in my hand, I thought I'd find clarity hiding in the dark silence of my room, but all I found was my own cowardice staring back at me in the mirror, and the more I tried to convince myself I did the right thing keeping a safe distance from someone whose spotlight could burn me alive, the more that badge in my palm screamed otherwise, because deep down I knew Emily wasn't chasing closure. She was handing me a chance, raw and fragile, and I had no idea what to do with it, so I did what every confused man does when he's too afraid to commit. I distracted myself, tried focusing on the next episode, the next recording, the next reason to not reply to her text that simply said, "Your attitude is my answer," and that should have been romantic, right? But I was still reeling, unsure if this was her being genuine or her being dramatic for the show, except if you knew Emily like I did, you'd know she was never fake when it came to feelings. She just never begged, never pleaded, she'd rather shatter silently than let the world see her cracks, which is why when the scandal hit, I knew it would break her. Because somehow a random paparazzi managed to snap a photo of me crouching in the park feeding cotton candy to Mikey, and overnight the internet decided I had a secret wife and child, that I'd lied to get on a dating show, that I used Emily Carter's fame to boost my own pathetic career, and if I thought the barrage during the show was brutal, that was nothing compared to the full-blown social media riot that followed. James Walker is cancelled, fake single actor, justice for Emily. And just like that, everything we'd carefully tiptoed around came crashing down. Except Emily didn't disappear, she didn't ghost me, she didn't leave me to rot under the hate. Nosh called, calm but firm, and said, "Send me the original photos, I'll handle it," and within hours the top marketing accounts deleted their posts. Press clarified that Mikey was my nephew, and Emily publicly reposted my statement saying the child was innocent and people should back off, and you'd think that would be enough to quiet the noise. But the internet wasn't ready to let go. They started digging, speculating, connecting dots that weren't meant to be connected. Like, was that call on the variety show real? Could her ex be James? And some even matched voice inflections from old interviews like this was CSI, Hollywood, and I would have laughed if I wasn't panicking that this would drag Emily down with me. But then she messaged me again, just one line, "No matter what you choose, I'm still here," and for the first time in days, I wanted to believe it. Until Nathan, my agent, walked in like the ghost of capitalism and said, "So are you planning to be with her or not?" I didn't know what to say, so I stayed quiet, and he let out this dry chuckle and said, "Wake up, James. You know who's behind Emily, right? Richard Carter. Her CEO. That man doesn't lose. He might be letting you on the ride now, but if you fumble, he'll drop you so fast your career will evaporate." And as much as I hated the way he said it, I knew he wasn't wrong. Richard didn't build an empire by letting love get in the way of numbers, and in this industry, nothing is sacred, not even first love, not even redemption arcs, so I stayed silent, let the trending topics spin, let the producers milk it. Let the final episode become the most anticipated confession finale in dating show history, and when the production team asked us to write a letter to the person we liked, I froze, stared at the blank page, and my hand refused to move, because I didn't know what to write that could undo everything. But that afternoon, while I was still stuck, Emily burst into my room, didn't even knock, just held out her hand and said, "You wrote it for me, right?" I tried to dodge, told her to wait till the evening like everyone else, but she narrowed her eyes, pushed past me, and said, "You didn't write it at all, did you?" I panicked, pointed at the blank sheet, and smirked, "Not yet." "Want to write it yourself?" She stared at me for a beat, then actually did it, sat down and scribbled something, sealed the envelope, and handed it back. "No peeking," she warned with a wink, then left. So when the time came and the lights were on and all of us sat in a circle with letters in front of us, I expected her to read hers. But she didn't. She picked up mine. Olivier to correct her, "Emily, that one's James's letter," but she smiled and said, "It's fine." "I know." She opened it, cleared her throat, and began to read, "I like you. I like you. I like you," over and over again. 300 times. That's what she had written. I almost passed out. Everyone stared at me. Olivia was crying laughing. The barrage was on fire. He wrote "I like you" 300 times. This isn't love, this is obsession. James is so down bad he skipped the whole dictionary. But I hadn't written a single word. That was all Emily. That was her way of saying what I never had the courage to say. And just when I thought the show would cut to commercial, she slipped a second letter into my lap, whispering, "This one's real. Just for you. Don't show anyone." I opened it after the cameras stopped rolling. Inside was a stick figure drawing of a trophy, but instead of her name, it had mine. In her handwriting. That moment undid me. After the show ended, the rumors exploded again, but this time they weren't guessing, they were celebrating. We went public. It was chaotic, overwhelming, terrifying, and still, she stood by me. Then Richard Carter called me into his office. I was shaking. Instead of yelling, he handed me 3 scripts. "Pick one," he said. "The spotlight's on you. Use it." I didn't know what to say. He smiled faintly. "Strike while the iron's hot, son. CPs are the future." He wasn't wrong. Everyone was rolling with it. Our relationship was more viral than any drama series. People loved our banter, our history, our tension. So we agreed to co-star in a filmy first real lead. Emily was technically the second lead, but let's be real, she carried the soul of the movie. I trained like hell. I studied until sunrise. Every night, I made Emily rehearse with me, run lines, shoot mock scenes in the kitchen. She was patient at first, but one night at 11 p.m., she stood at the bathroom door in a towel, hair wet, brows raised, and said, "You're seriously still trying to rehearse?" I nodded like a dumbass. She burst out laughing, grabbed me by the shirt, and shoved me straight into the shower. "Here's your dramatic climax scene," she said. I never recovered. Not from her laughter. Not from the way she looked at me after. But this wasn't the ending. It was the beginning of something bigger, something real. And whether I was ready or not, the entire world was watching us fall in love all over again, one take at a time. The night before the premiere of our film felt like a fever dream I couldn't wake from. I had memorized every line, rehearsed every gesture, every emotional beat, but none of it compared to the chaos pounding inside my chest as I lay in bed replaying every moment of the last few weeks. Emily's confession letter disguised as mine, the trophy drawing with my name scribbled in her careful cursive, the towel incident that had me stunned for 20 minutes in the shower like an idiot while she laughed. On the other side of the door, the first time we kissed after a late-night scene rehearsal that got way too real, her forehead resting against mine as she whispered, "Told you I'd win something for you," and I swear, for a second, I believed nothing could go wrong, but I should have known better, because nothing in my life ever stays simple when the cameras are off. And as soon as the movie hit theaters and our on-screen chemistry set the box office on fire, the praise came in like a tidal wave, but so did the backlash, people questioning if I deserved the lead, if I was just Emily Carter's pretty little sidekick, if I'd gotten the role because of her pity or her PR team, or worse, if I'd been using her all along, and I thought I was ready for it. I thought I'd built up enough armor to let the noise bounce off, but the night I won Best Actor at the Horizon Awards, I completely lost it, not on stage, not during my thank you speech, but the moment I got home, alone, holding the same badge Emily had once given me on that rooftop months ago, and now I had my own, same design, only this one had my name engraved in it for real, and I broke down, not because I was proud, but because I didn't know who I was outside of her anymore, didn't know how to define my success without wondering how much of it was mine and how much of it was her shadow making me shine, and it wasn't jealousy. It was guilt that I had doubted her, guilt that I ever made her feel like loving me meant compromising her future, and guilt that even now, even with the world shipping us, with sponsors throwing us couple brand deals, with agents calling us the power pair of the year, I still hadn't really said what needed to be said, not out loud, not face to face, but Emily knew, of course she did, she always knew, which is why when we were invited to be surprise guests on the final episode of Heart Signal, Reunion, they milked that franchise dry. She accepted before I could even blink, and when I asked her why, she said, "Because I want to finish what we started," and maybe it was nostalgia or maybe it was karma, but walking back into that same villa where everything had begun felt surreal, like we'd stepped into an alternate timeline where things didn't fall apart, and the producers, never ones to waste good drama, decided to recreate the infamous call challenge that started it all, only this time, instead of calling an ex, we had to call a what if a person we once loved but never got closure with, and the host looked straight at me when he said it, like he knew I wouldn't even pretend to pick someone else, and I didn't. I just turned to Emily, grabbed the mic, and said, "I don't need to call her, she's right here," and that moment, that exact moment, the entire live audience went insane, the chat was breaking, barrage exploded, "They're doing it again, propose already, James stop making me cry," and I looked at her, really looked at her, her lips trembling like she couldn't decide if she wanted to cry or slap me, and I said, "Emily Carter, you're not a what if, you're the only if," and then I pulled out the second badge, the one I'd secretly kept from the premiere, the one I had custom engraved with both our names wrapped around a shooting star, and I handed it to her in front of everyone and said, "I know I didn't walk in your direction fast enough that night, but you waited for me anyway, and I'm not running this time," and she covered her mouth and nodded so hard I thought her neck would snap, and just like that, the internet melted again, but this time, it wasn't speculation, it was fact, it was real, it was ours, and no PR machine, no agency, no trending scandal could twist what had already unfolded raw and live in front of millions, and while the producers ate up every second of it and probably sold the footage to 5 different platforms, what mattered was that after the cameras shut off, we didn't leave separately, we didn't fake a goodbye, you went home together, her hand never letting go of mine, and for the first time in what felt like forever, there was no script, no segment, no next cue, just her, leaning on my shoulder in the back seat, whispering, "We're really doing this, huh?" and me, too choked up to answer, just kissed the top of her head and closed my eyes like maybe this was what peace felt like, but of course, peace didn't last in our world, because within a week of the reunion episode airing, my inbox was flooded with interview offers, ad campaigns, acting gigs from directors who'd once rejected me, and my agent Nathan called me twice a day reminding me that this heat would cool eventually, that we needed to capitalize while we still could, that the next project was everything, and yet, the only thing I wanted was to slow down, breathe, figure out how to love Emily without the entire world watching us like a live soap opera. But Emily had her own momentum now too, roles lined up, meetings back to back, and our calendars started clashing before we even realized it, until one night over takeout, she looked at me and said, "James, are we chasing each other again or just chasing our own tails?" And I laughed, but it wasn't funny, because she was right. We had fought so hard to get here, but what now? Were we supposed to pause our careers to protect this fragile thing we'd rebuilt? Or did we let it stretch and see if it could survive the distance? I didn't know. But I knew this, I wasn't going to make the same mistake again. I wasn't going to leave things unsaid or assume she'd wait forever. So I asked her, "What do you want?" And she took a beat, looked down at the badge still on her keychain, and said, "I want you to keep up, James. I don't need you to slow down. I need you to run with me." And damn, if that wasn't the most Emily Carter thing she'd ever sighed. No tears, no ultimatums, just fire in her eyes and a challenge in her voice, and I accepted it, wholeheartedly, because the truth is, I never wanted to be the reason she held back. I wanted to be the reason she soared, and maybe, just maybe, we could fly together if we stopped being afraid of falling. Keeping up with Emily Carter wasn't just about matching her stride, it was about surviving in the same orbit without burning out, and while she moved like a comet, bright, fast, unstoppable, I was still figuring out if I was a star or just someone lucky enough to be caught in her gravity, because after the dating show reunion and our movie premiere, everything we touched turned into headline gold. Sponsors begged to use us as brand ambassadors, magazines booked us for couple spreads, and social media ate up every little interaction like it was scripted fan service, but none of it felt fake. Not to mean yet, I started to wonder if living under a microscope would kill whatever fragile reality we had finally managed to build, because love was easy when it was private, but now everything from our breakfast orders to our wardrobe choices was dissected by millions, and I wasn't sure if I was James Walker, the man Emily loved, or James Walker, the trending hashtag attached to her fame, and I think she sensed it too, because one morning she walked into the kitchen, still in one of my oversized hoodies, hair a mess, eyes half open, and just said, "Let's get out of here," and I didn't ask where, I just packed a bag and followed her out the door. No PR team, no schedule, no plan, just the two of us driving along the Pacific Coast Highway in a beat-up rental car, wind blasting through the open windows, her feet on the dashboard, humming to old Taylor Swift songs, and for 2 days it felt like we were nobody, just a guy and a girl in love, eating gas station snacks and stopping at every beach we passed. And on the second night, we stayed in this rundown motel with squeaky floors and neon signs that flickered like a horror film, but she looked around, grinned, and said, "Perfect," and that night, we sat on the roof with cheap wine, talking about everything we never got to say when we were younger, like how she used to watch my short films in college even before we dated, how I once got rejected from a drama workshop and cried in the dorm shower for 2 hours, how she almost turned down her breakout role because I wasn't cast in the same film, and how the badge she gave me wasn't just a promise, it was her way of anchoring herself to me when we were falling apart. And by the time the sun came up, I think we both realized that it wasn't the industry or the cameras or the expectations that ever got between us, it was fear, stupid pride, and our inability to admit how much we needed each other. But now, with her hand in mine and no one around to judge, I finally said it, for real, no cameras, no producers, just us. "I love you, Emily," and she didn't say it back at first, she just leaned her head on my shoulder and whispered, "Good," and it was so very her that I laughed, pulled her closer, and kissed her like we had all the time in the world. But of course, we didn't, because the minute we got back to LA, reality slammed into us like a freight train. Our teams had already scheduled interviews, press tours, and brand deals we hadn't approved, and the weird part was, everyone seemed relieved we'd finally locked in the relationship, like it was all a rollout strategy they'd been waiting to go public with, and that pissed me off, not because they were wrong, but because they assumed it was theirs to decide. And when I told Emily we should cancel a few campaigns to just breathe, she agreed immediately. No pushback, just said, "Then let's do it." Which is how we ended up turning down 3 7-figure deals in one afternoon, sending our agents into full cardiac arrest, but we didn't care, because what we needed wasn't more exposure, it was clarity, direction, space to grow without choking, and maybe that's why the next script we were pitched felt so strange, because it wasn't a romance, it wasn't about fame. It was a low-budget indie about grief and silence and second chances, and it had no commercial appeal, no guaranteed box office. But when Emily read it, she looked at me and said, "This is the one," and I trusted her instinct, because when she said something like that, she meant it with her soul, and I knew I'd rather fail beside her on a story that mattered than win on a lie we couldn't even believe in ourselves, so we signed on, and for 2 months we disappeared from the public eye to shoot it, deep in the desert, away from everything. And it was the hardest thing I've ever filmed, not because of the technicals, but because of how close it hit to home. The characters were two people who loved each other once, lost everything, and had to figure out if forgiveness was enough, and every line between us felt like we were exorcising our own demons, and there was one scene where her character breaks down and begs mine to say something, anything, to prove he still cares, and in the middle of filming, Emily looked at me, really looked at me, eyes shaking, and for a second I forgot the script, forgot the cameras, forgot everything except the fact that I never wanted her to look at me like that in real life again, so I said the line, but I also added 2 more words, unscripted, raw, real, I'm staying, and her tears weren't acting, not that time, and neither were mine, and the director kept rolling, let it all play out, because sometimes truth doesn't need a rewrite, it just needs to be witnessed, and when the film wrapped, we didn't celebrate with champagne or confetti or flashy wrap parties, we just sat together in the trailer, quiet, holding hands, knowing we'd made something honest, and whether the world understood it or not didn't matter, because we did, and that was enough, at least for now. But deep down, I knew this wasn't the ending, not yet, not with everything we'd fought through, not with everything the world still expected from us, and definitely not with the final press conference coming up, the one where they'd ask the question everyone had been dying to know since that first chaotic phone call on live TV. Was it real, or was it just another love story written for views? And this time, we'd answer it together. The day of the final press conference felt heavier than any premiere, heavier than the awards, the reunion show, even the day Emily handed me her trophy badge on that rooftop, because this time, there was no script, no role to hide behind, no director yelling, "Cut," if things got too real. Just us, side by side in front of 100 journalists and 10 million people watching the live stream, waiting for the truth we'd never officially said out loud. And as I sat there gripping the mic with sweaty palms, I watched Emily tilt her chin up like she always did when she was about to face a storm, calm and collected like the hurricane behind her eyes wasn't screaming, and maybe it was just nerves, maybe it was just me overthinking it like I always do, but when the reporter stood up and asked the question, "Emily, James, was it real?" The phone call, the show, the reunion, the confessions, was any of it ever real, or were we just sold a perfect love story? The silence that followed stretched so long I could hear my own heartbeat in the speakers, but Emily didn't flinch, didn't blink, she just reached over, took the mic from me, and said, "It was all real, every messy, complicated, beautiful second of it," and the moment she said it, something inside me finally loosened, like I could breathe fully for the first time in years, because hearing her say it out loud, not just to me, not just in private, but to the world, meant we didn't owe anyone else an explanation anymore, not after what we went through, not after how we rebuilt something that should have never had a second chance. And just when I thought she was done, she turned to me and added, "But if you're still unsure, James can answer for himself," and the way she said my name, teasing but soft, like we were still those 2 kids on the dorm balcony under the stars, broke me a little in the best way, so I cleared my throat, leaned forward, and said, "It was real." The moment I heard that kid scream, "Dad," and realized how fast time moved without her, and the room laughed, a ripple of amusement that melted the tension, but then I followed it with, "It was real when I couldn't recognize her face during the photo game because I'd been forcing myself to forget it for too long, and it was real when she chose to forgive me before I even forgave myself, and by the time I said, it was real every single time I wanted to quit but she didn't let me." Emily's hand was on my thigh, gripping it tight like she was the one who needed grounding now, and after the conference, after the headlines exploded with "Emily Carter and James Walker confirm it was always real," after the hashtags trended again and the edits flooded TikTok and the fans cried and posted photos of our first movie side by side with reunion screenshots like some cinematic multiverse romance, who left, not in separate cars, not escorted by publicists, just together, slipping out the back in hoodies and caps like we were invisible again, and I swear I've never felt more seen than I did in that silence between us, walking to the car like we'd done it 1,000 times, like this wasn't an ending but finally a beginning we both chose, freely, consciously, without regret, and back home, while she made tea in my old oversized hoodie that now permanently lived in her closet. I sat on the floor with Mikey, who was building Legos with alarming intensity, and I realized just how much had changed, how the boy who once ran from everything was now the man trying to build a life sturdy enough for someone to stay. And Emily came over, sat beside me, looked down at Mikey, and said, "He's still calling you Dad, huh?" And I laughed, guessed that trauma stuck, and she nudged me, eyes sparkling, "Maybe it's not trauma, maybe it's a preview," and I turned to her, stunned, "Wait, are you?" But she shook her head fast, "No, just saying, he looks cute with you." And I grinned, "You saying you don't want to ruin your figure with a baby yet?" And she threw a pillow at my face, muttering something about shallow men and postpartum expectations, and Mikey looked between us and deadpanned, "Can I finish my spaceship now?" which had both of us bursting into laughter, but deep down, I tucked her words away, like a seed I knew would bloom when the time was right, because with Emily, every joke had a root of truth. And in the weeks that followed, as we quietly transitioned from couple goals to just a couple, we started to find rhythm in the chaos: late night ramen in sweats instead of red carpet dinners, post-rehearsal walks where she made fun of my pronunciation drills, sharing a Google Calendar that somehow always overbooked and undercommunicated, but we figured it out anyway. And one day I woke up to find the badge I gave her hanging on the rearview mirror of our car, next to the original one she gave me. Like we'd finally found the balance between who we were and who we became. And I guess what surprised me most wasn't how we managed to survive the drama, the distance, or even the public eye. It was how naturally we started dreaming together again, talking about projects we wanted to produce, small indie scripts we believed in, opening a mentorship program for actors who couldn't afford training, maybe even buying a place by the beach where the chaos couldn't reach us. And one night as we sat watching our second movie play at an indie theater, surrounded by strangers who didn't know us as Emily Carter and James Walker but just as characters on screen, she leaned into me and whispered, "Do you think we'll always be this lucky?" And I kissed her hair and said, "No, but we'll always be this real." And when she looked at me with that same expression from the reunion show, the one that said, "I trust you, I choose you, I see you," I realized maybe that's all we ever needed, not perfection, not fairy tale endings, not even the crowd's applause, just two people, honest and stubborn, willing to try again and again until it stuck. And somewhere between heartbreak and headlines, between the what ifs and the I'll wait for yous, we stopped being a story for the world and started being a home for each other. And this time, I wasn't running, she wasn't retreating, and no matter how loud the world got, we were finally, undeniably, just us.